But just down the road, I mean, and the roads might be quite big there, I don't know, is the team Rovaniemi Palo Sura. So they were good boys, but these guys were naughty boys. We've touched on match fixing a few times on our show, and they were involved in some a few years ago. And I believe the ultimate villain of football, what's his name? Wilson
Paramal
was involved. Can you give us a little bit of background about what happened?
Yeah, well, Wilson Paramal is a match-fixing kind of kingpin from Hong Kong, I believe, or no, Singapore. Sorry, yeah. From Singapore. And he effectively ran match-fixing books, but he got bigger and bigger in doing it and became more and more kind of bolshy. And eventually started setting up entire games that were rigged, but all players on the pitch were in on it, the referee was in on it, and he started to set up these games. But he wasn't content with that, so eventually he started to think, well, the best way to rig games would be to take over an entire club. So he found this team in Finland. I call them ROPS, like ROPS. I don't think people do it, but they're Rovaniemi is where they're based. And he found this team to be quite a good target. Because the players weren't being paid very much. And so he thought he could basically rig an entire season's worth of games by taking over the club effectively, maybe not officially.
That's bold.
But what was fairly funny, although slightly tragically, was it didn't go very well. He only actually managed to get about half the games to go the way that he wanted them to, even though he had every single player in the dressing room was sort of being influenced either directly or indirectly. They just couldn't get it right. They would score too many goals, they would let in too many goals. And there are these incredible stories of him bawling at this dressing room full of players and saying, you know, can't you understand we had to draw 2-2? And the players sort of saying,
subtle.
But they were so bad, we couldn't let in another goal, they just didn't have a shot. And, you know, he was bawling like this in broad daylight in the middle of a dressing room.
That's amazing.
And eventually he did get caught.
I think, yeah, he did. I think he did bird. He did time.
He did
for a couple of years.
Something pathetic though, like 2 years, because he sort of ratted out everyone else who was involved in this. But the thing was that the team had a lot of African players, a lot of Zambian players, and he realised they were getting paid very poorly and could lean on these players very, very heavily because he could offer them more to rig one game than they were getting paid a year.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, you can't really blame these players as strongly as you would, as you think you could. You know, they were.
Yeah. What's really sad about that is there was an emotional connection to Zambia as well. I can't quite recall his name, but he was an incredible player for them for 10 or 11 years. The guy came from Zambia, and as a result, there was obviously connections with that country, and over time, over about a decade, there was like 20 Zambian players, but now sadly that's come to a very abrupt halt, and they've stopped actually employing foreign players because of this suspicion.
The sad thing is it sort of cut a lot of players' careers in the bud, and these were quite young guys who, for one reason or another, felt they had to do this financially. There's a guy called Christopher Musonda who I've sort of vaguely been in contact with, and it just sort of ruined their careers, which is very sad, I think.
Well, at least he finally got caught.